Ever feel like you're just sending your resume into a black hole, spending hours on applications and hearing nothing back?
It's definitely a common frustration, especially now.
It's like the job hunting landscape itself has become this constantly shifting maze,
Yeah, and AI is playing a bigger and bigger role in that. It's actually pretty fascinating how it's changing things on both sides of the process.
which is exactly why we're doing a deep dive today on RoleCatcher. They're all about using AI to, well, they say, become your ultimate job hunting ally.
Ambitious. So, what's the deal with RoleCatcher? What do they actually offer?
They have a bunch of features all centered around this idea of using AI to work smarter, not harder, in your job search. And they pull information from all over the place, job boards, company websites, you name it.
Okay, so like data aggregation, but with a purpose, I hope.
Right, exactly. It's not just about finding every job posting out there. It's about making those postings work for you.
And this is where I'm guessing their AI comes in.
You got it. One of their big features is called RoleCatcher Capture. Imagine this. You're on LinkedIn, Indeed, wherever, and you see an interesting job.
Happens to the best of us, scrolling endlessly.
With RoleCatcher Capture, you click one button, and it grabs the key info about that job title, company, requirements, the whole shebang, and saves it to your RoleCatcher dashboard.
So it's like bookmarking, but for jobs.
Exactly. No more frantic copying and pasting or trying to remember where you saw that perfect listing.
Okay, that's pretty handy. But finding jobs is, well, often the easier part, right?
You're preaching to the choir. It's the getting your application noticed that's the real hurdle.
And I'm guessing RoleCatcher claims to have a solution for that too.
Oh, they definitely do. They have this feature called skills analysis, and it's wild. It's like having X-ray vision for job descriptions.
X-ray vision. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So their AI analyzes each job posting and picks out the exact skills and keywords the employer is looking for. It's not just pulling out obvious stuff. It's looking for those subtle cues that tell you exactly what they want in a candidate.
Okay, so it's not just about having the right skills on your resume. It's about showcasing them in a way that aligns with what the company is looking for. That makes sense.
And here's the kicker. RoleCatcher doesn't just tell you what the employer wants. It compares your resume, your LinkedIn profile, all of it, against those requirements and highlights any gaps. Like, hey, they're really looking for someone with project management experience, and you haven't mentioned that.
That's actually pretty smart. It takes the guesswork out of tailoring your application. You're not just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. You're being strategic.
Right, and this is where it gets even cooler. They take that analysis and actually suggest how you can tailor your resume, your cover letter, even practice your interview answers to better match what they're looking for.
Wow, it's like having a personal career coach in your back pocket. But how effective is all of this in reality? I mean, AI is great, but it's not human.
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Exactly. And it's good to be skeptical. So let's dig into some of the potential downsides and see if RoleCatcher addresses them. What do you think?
Absolutely, because no tool is perfect, and it's important to understand both the pros and cons before jumping in. One thing I do wonder about, though, is networking.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not all about AI and algorithms, right? Relationships still matter.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, RoleCatcher actually has some features specifically for networking.
Really? Like what?
They have this whole network management tool built into the platform.
Okay.
It's kind of like a CRM, but specifically for your job search.
Interesting.
So you can import your contacts, log your interactions, even link them to specific job applications so you can see who you talk to about what and when.
So no more relying on memory or those crumpled up sticky notes with people's names on them.
Exactly. It's all about being organized and strategic with your networking, which I think is super important because it's not just about who you know, it's about how you cultivate those relationships.
And that can make all the difference. Speaking of making a difference, let's talk about the interview process.
Yeah.
I mean, even with a perfectly tailored resume, you still have to nail the interview.
Oh, for sure. And RoleCatcher claims to have you covered there too. They have this feature, it's called Interview Prep, and apparently they have a database of, get this, over 120,000 interview questions.
120,000. That's a lot of questions. How did they even begin to make that useful for individual job seekers?
Well, it's not just a random list of questions. Remember that AI analysis we talked about earlier?
Yeah?
They use that same technology to pull out potential interview questions based on the specific jobs you're interested in.
Oh, so it's like peeking into the interviewer's playbook.
Exactly. So you can get a feel for the types of questions they might ask based on the skills and experience they're looking for. And of course, they provide insights and sample answers for a lot of the questions.
That's helpful. But you don't want to sound like a robot reciting memorized answers in an interview.
Totally. Authenticity is key. It's more about using these tools as a guide to prepare, to get you thinking in the right direction, not to script out your every word.
Right. It's about striking that balance.
Yeah.
So you're prepared, but you're still yourself.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher actually takes this step further. They have this whole practice feature where you can record yourself answering interview questions and then watch it back.
Well, that's interesting. It's one thing to practice in your head, but seeing yourself on camera can be eye-opening, to say the least.
I know, right? You might catch those nervous habits you didn't even realize you had, or see that your answers are kind of rambling.
Totally. So it's like having a way to get feedback on your interview skills before you're actually in the hot seat.
Exactly. And if you really want to step up your game, they have this premium subscription. It's called Copilot AI.
Copilot AI, what's that all about?
So for a monthly fee, Copilot AI actually analyzes your practice recordings and gives you personalized feedback. Like, it'll tell you if you're speaking too fast or too slow, if you're using too much jargon, even if your body language is off.
Wow, so it's like having a virtual interview coach in your back pocket. That could be huge, especially for people who get nervous during interviews.
Right. It's all about using technology to refine those skills and boost your confidence. But the big question is, does all of this actually translate into real-world results? I mean, it's one thing to have all these fancy features, but do they actually help you land a job?
That's what I'm wondering. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of it all, but ultimately it's about getting hired, right?
Right. And that's where we need to look at the bigger picture, because RoleCatcher is just a tool, right? And like any tool, its effectiveness depends on how it's used.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does it work in terms of actually connecting with employers? Because it's not a traditional job board, right?
Yeah, right. They do have a job board, but it's not their main thing. Their real innovation is this thing they call reverse matching.
Reverse matching, what is that?
So instead of you searching for jobs, employers on RoleCatcher can actually search for candidates based on their skills and experience.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like they're flipping the script. Instead of you chasing after jobs, the jobs come to you.
Exactly. It's like having a bunch of recruiters actively looking for someone with your specific skill set.
Okay, that's kind of cool. But I'm guessing the effectiveness of that depends on how many employers are actually using RoleCatcher, right?
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. You need both job seekers and employers on board for it to work. But let's switch gears a bit and talk about some of the concerns that come up with AI-powered tools like this. One thing I hear a lot is about the limitations of AI feedback. Can it ever really replace feedback from a real person?
That's a good question. I mean, AI is great at analyzing data and spotting patterns, but it doesn't have that same emotional intelligence as a human being, right?
Exactly. And that's something that RoleCatcher even acknowledges in their FAQs.
It's like you can get helpful pointers from a computer program, but sometimes you need that human touch, that understanding of what you're going through.
Right, exactly. And I think RoleCatcher even says that, like, their AI feedback is great for spotting those objective things, like gaps in your resume or if you're using too many filler words.
Yeah, those quantifiable things.
But when it comes to things like your overall career trajectory or whether you're a good fit for a particular company culture, that's where human interaction is still key.
Makes sense. So it's not about replacing humans with AI. It's about finding that sweet spot where they work together.
Exactly. And that's something to keep in mind with any AI tool, not just RoleCatcher. It's about using it to enhance your own skills and judgment, not to outsource your decision-making.
So after taking this deep dive into RoleCatcher, what's the verdict? Is it the ultimate job hunting ally they claim to be?
Well, I think it definitely has the potential to be a really valuable tool for job seekers. I mean, it aggregates data from all these different sources, it analyzes it in a way that's actually useful, and it provides some really concrete suggestions for improvement.
Yeah, and it streamlines a lot of those tedious tasks that can suck up so much time and energy during a job search.
Totally. And I think the reverse matching thing is super interesting. If they can get enough employers on board with that, it could really change the game in terms of how people find jobs.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that evolves.
Yeah.
But it's not a magic bullet, right?
Yeah, definitely not. And they even say that on their website. Like, they're very upfront about the fact that RoleCatcher is a tool. And like any tool, its effectiveness depends on the user.
It's about being proactive, using your own judgment, and not expecting the AI to do all the work for you.
Right, exactly. It's about taking control of your job search, putting in the effort, and using all the resources at your disposal, AI or otherwise, to achieve your goals.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that wraps up our deep dive on RoleCatcher, folks. We hope this has given you some food for thought as you navigate the ever-evolving world of job hunting.
Absolutely. And remember, whether you're using AI or good old-fashioned human interaction, the most important thing is to stay curious, stay persistent, and never give up on your dreams.
Well said. That's all the time we have for today, but be sure to check back soon for our next deep dive, where we'll be exploring another fascinating topic at the intersection of technology and the future of work.